Carl and Liam here from Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it's getting goosebumps as we continue into season 2, touching upon a favorite of R.L. Stine, ghosts. However, interesting thing, more of a personal thing than anything else, I realize up to this point, almost every ghost story that he's done has actually been some of the strongest work.
Yeah.
So I was kind of excited about this one. And overall, I think it's a solid story.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's like the production of it and stuff is on like more of the higher end, and yeah, like the locations they use in the episode. Because you know, you can always get a sense of when these episodes come along that it feels like more effort or budget was thrown at it for some reason. Like maybe, like you said, maybe it's something that's one of his more favorite stories, and he was influential in ensuring that they got the more money so they could do more with it. I'm not sure.
Possibly. It's also one of those that's got an ending, twist, all that business, the Goosebump things that you can see coming a mile away, but it's still enjoyable because of it. You're like, okay, no, it's fine. I know what it is. It's like the right ending to a fucking wrestling match where you know the result, you know how it's going to finish, but it's the right way to do it. So you just enjoy it for that.
For sure.
Basically, you know, Hangman Page. That's what I'm talking about. Right result.
Yeah, I mean, that's the predictable outcome, but it's the right way for it to go. You know,
Exactly.
the only way it should go. Yeah.
It is the 9th episode of this second season and the 22nd book in the original Goosebump book series, first published in 1994.
They just flip-flop around with these selection of stories, don't they? It seems like.
In a bit, we're going to go back to the 3rd book.
Yeah.
Like crazy how they did it.
I wonder what the selection process was, what it was like, and yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to take a punt and say it's based upon the writers, because the writers are often very, very different people. And I reckon it's about who was doing the quickest work, or I've written this one, that's ready to go. I've written this one, that one's ready to go.
Yeah, you think they were probably filming like so many at the same time or something like that, and then it was like whoever finished first, they just were like, that one's done.
Yeah,
you know, get that one into post-production or whatever.
Yeah, because some I think would have been, some are just really hard to adapt. We'll get to one a lot later, Monster Blood. That is very difficult to adapt into a story, and you'll see that in the episode.
Yeah, well, like this one, obviously because of the locations and stuff, that probably probably took longer to film than the previous episode, the Garden Gnomes one, which is like a single location, probably is a lot quicker to get done, you know.
No, true. This one's directed by Steve DeMarco and written by Jeffrey Cohen. We begin overlooking a graveyard near a beach. You know it's near a beach because you can hear the beach in the background. I want to make sure you know exactly where it is. Clever way for me to identify exactly where it is. There's a young boy calling out for a girl named Terry. She calls him from afar, where we see she's doing that kind of grave wax rubbing where you put a sheet over it and you can print off what's on it. If you've ever seen Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, there's a major point of that film that does that thing. He mocks her hobby because of course he does, because brother and sister, naturally they've got to be dicks to each other.
Yep.
And he wants to go to the beach. Now, these characters, we have Jerry Sheldon Smith, and of course Terry, the other one, played by Jessica Hogveen. Apparently they're there visiting some family, some cousins, some distant cousins. And we'll get into that weirdness later, but this is a bit of a strange setup. She then points out the name of the grave as it shares their last name, Sadler. That's important to the story, Sadlers.
It's making me think of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, oh my God, I didn't even do that. I didn't even put that together, of course. But of course, this is Goosebumps, and we have to have our opening trope. So behind them, we see something moving in the grass. Something rises up behind the kids, scaring them into running off. And obviously, we get the fade to black because it's a monster.
No, man, just cut to the end. That's it. Goosebumps credits. That'd be like, whoa, man, what a twist. 2-minute episode.
Sadler? I know. Look, he died in 1642. One of the first guys to come to America, and he's got our last name.
Oh.
Check out the epitaph. Though his bones are but dust, his spirit lives on forever.
Terry, don't you want to go to the beach?
I love it that everything around here is so old.
So yeah, everyone's running. Jerry falls over, and the monster/person reveals himself to be a young girl. And another young boy comes out, and they reveal it was a prank. It's always a fucking prank. Old kids pranking Goosebumps.
Yeah, lots of pranking kids. Yep.
Jerry and Terry are unimpressed, so they walk off while the other two kids apologize and then introduce themselves. We have Sam, played by Bill Turnbull, and Louisa, played by Anna Majewski. And they happen to also have the same last name as Sadler.
Ooh, how intriguing.
Indeed, indeed. The kids reveal that there are lots of Sadlers about, including dead ones. And Louisa says that Harrison Sadler, which was the gravestone that she was etching, is dead but still walks the night. Of course, Jerry dismisses it because he just presumes these kids are trying to scare you after what they've just done. But Sam says, hey, go to this cave at the beach and you'll believe in ghosts too.
Harrison Sadler is dead, but he still walks the night.
They're just trying to scare us again. Nice try. Oh, come on.
You don't really believe in ghosts, do you?
If you go near the cave down at the beach, you will too.
That's enough, Sam.
The cave?
Come on, we need to go. We'll see you around.
I gotta stop here, right? So we don't really get a lot of terrible acting in these Goosebumps episodes. We just get sort of all right acting or some decent to best. That's why we don't always cover it. But I got to talk about Sam and Louisa, Bill Turnbull and Anna Majewski. They're terrible. Their delivery in this episode, in almost every line, is so cringeworthy. You're like, I shouldn't have gone, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah, I put down that I thought throughout the episode there is some decent acting, but then also, yeah, it's very poor at the times. Very, comes and goes.
Yeah,
for sure.
It really does. Later at home, the kids are eating dinner with their cousins. So these are the cousins they've gone to visit. These distant cousins that apparently are like fourth removed, so they don't really seem to know. And naturally, you're presuming, well, there'd be kids or whatever. They're not. They're old people, like grandpa ages, grandma and grandpa ages, in their 60s.
I must have missed that completely because I thought it was their grandparents.
Cousins, fucking weird.
That's really strange, yeah.
Right, absolutely. But this is Brad Sadler, played by Jack Jessup, and Agatha, played by Dorothy Gordon. Both these actors are familiar faces. I've seen in stuff, but I couldn't tell you what, particularly Dorothy Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, the kids may not be that good, but I thought they're obviously pretty decent. They're not too bad. Yeah.
They have a discussion about the importance of family, and the kids reveal that they met Sam and Louisa, and this changes the tone of the conversation. And because it's Goosebumps, not only does it change the tone, but the music changes. So you're like, oh, this is weird and sinister.
Yeah, there's some like really exaggerated dramatic music throughout in this episode, but I do think at times it is actually quite effective in ramping up the mystery and the creep factor. You know, it's pretty good at times, but very like over the top.
You've got 20 minutes to tell the story. Use music to help it along.
Yeah.
When Jerry mentions the cave, Brad dismisses its existence and they leave the table. The next day, Jerry and Terry are walking on the beach and Jerry wants to try and find the cave. He leaves Terry to find it himself, but then trips over and comes face to face with something that makes him scream. Terry comes running over and we see it's the perfect skeleton of a small animal. It's a very fake looking skeleton, but it's fine.
Yeah.
What is it? What's wrong?
Look at that. Perfect skeleton.
Of what?
A raccoon, maybe.
As they discuss what it is, Sam and Louisa arrive and claim it to be a dog skeleton. They reveal that the ghost of Harrison Sadler killed the dog because dogs can sense ghosts. And it's like, okay. And apparently he then eats the dog. And it's like, is that a ghost? Is that a ghost? Is that what ghosts do? But yeah, this is where I wrote down, oh, the acting is terrible. It's this particular scene.
I think it was actually for me too.
Yeah. Jerry dismisses the story, of course, but Sam points out the cave and he actually points out where it is. And it does look pretty cool. It's quite high up, quite in the distance. Looks like a cool cave. And suggests that this is where the ghost lives. They also say they've never seen the ghost, but they've seen the skeletons and you can see a flickering light in the tunnel mouth, which Jerry then sees, but then pretends he didn't, forcing Sam and Louisa, look, okay, we're not going to talk to you anymore. They leave. But Sam says a weird thing and calls them non-believers. And I just had a children of the corn thing going on here.
For sure.
What? Come on, Louisa. I told you they were non-believers.
That night, it's dinner time again, and the ghost story is brought up, but changing the tone, it changes the tone at the table again. There's this weird joke. There's 2 dinner table scenes, and I just don't get this joke. The very first time they're being served fish pie, and it looks nice, but the kid's like, he gets more on his plate, and he implies he can't eat it because he's not hungry, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Second time around, this time around, she's put less on her plate, and it's something beef related. And we hear Jerry saying, "Oh, it's not going to be enough food." And she says like, "Oh, I don't get you kids like too much one time, too little the next."
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a weird one.
He tells them he saw a light, but Brad compares the light to the aurora borealis and orders Jerry to stay away from the cave. And I don't know about you, I've never seen the aurora borealis, right? I've not seen it, but I know what it looks like. However, you have seen stuff like this, right?
Yes, of course. I have indeed. I went for a trip to Iceland not too long ago, so yeah.
Was it similar? Was it in a cave?
In a cave? No, I don't think that's possible. It makes me think of that scene from The Simpsons where, you know, Principal Skinner's trying to like distract Superintendent Chalmers from like going in his kitchen, and he says like there was an aurora borealis in his kitchen. It makes me think of that. Like, obviously, no, it can't happen inside a cave. It happens in the sky. So
yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so the kids kind of just get their shit dismissed. That night we hear Terry can hear a dog barking, so she gets up to close her window. And she's then startled by Jerry, who wants to go check out the cave. She rightfully says to him, "Why the fuck are we going in the middle of the night?" I mean, she doesn't say that, but she probably should say those words.
Yeah, could go any other time.
Yeah, like go during the fucking day. Why middle of the night? And Jerry's super excited about it.
That's the story of like 1,000 horror movies, like right there. So for the plot to work, they must go in the dark.
Yeah, and to make it even more worse is the dog's barking is cut off. Like it's cut off by a noise, and you're like, well, there's a good enough reason not to go out. Forget monsters or ghosts.
Yeah,
something kill that dog.
I guess it's the idea that you have, you know, to catch a ghost, you have to go out at night time or something like that. I don't know. Don't appear during the day.
Why not? But they do try this clever angle, which is the reason why Jerry isn't scared, is because he thinks that Brad and Agatha's insistence to not go to the cave is because they're hiding something in that cave, and he wants to know what it is.
Be careful.
Jerry, what if there really is a ghost?
Nah, it's something else. It's gotta be.
Look.
Yeah. Even though, like you said, you can kind of see where it's heading, the reveal or whatever. I do think like it does a good job of like creating intrigue within the story with the secretive elder cousins and just like the way they're acting weird about the whole thing. And yeah, I think it does like a good job of, if you're like a young child, this is like a good ghost story for someone that's maybe never seen many ghost stories and maybe don't see it as predictable as we did because we've seen like 1,000 horror movies, you know. But like for like a young child, I think it's like done pretty decently well.
No, I agree. I will say at this point, I don't remember the book, so I didn't quite have a clear grasp of what was going on. My natural inclination is to think those 2 other kids are ghosts. But then I'm like, well, how did the grandparents tie into this? And then what is in the cave? I didn't know. The mystery was there.
There's a few other elements that, you know, I'm not really sure how that's going to pan out. So, yeah.
They arrive at the cave and go inside, and they follow sounds, but then are scared by a flock of bats that fly out. Yep. They move on and find a lit torch, but then confronted by a man who tells them they shouldn't get involved with ghosts. He's very, very straight away, like he's designed to appear quite intimidating.
There you go. There's the eccentric adult character.
There it is. And this one is eccentric.
Also, I did note down, I don't know if you noticed, but the bats actually looked like they were like not CGI. I think it looked like they were rubber bats. So I just put down that I appreciated the use of rubber bats rather than CGI, because I think we've seen CG bats in a previous episode and they look terrible. So, yeah.
The fact that I didn't really notice them looking crap, I didn't notice. It says a lot, I think, then, yeah.
You are both in serious trouble. It's dangerous to get involved with ghosts.
We didn't mean any harm.
No, you're trying to trap me, aren't you? Admit it.
We were just looking around. Honest.
Silence!
He accuses them of trying to trap him, but he does tell them he's not a ghost. But he does reveal that his name is Harrison Sadler, and the actor playing this is Hardy T. Linham, and that the gravestone that they saw is his ancestor. But you're still like, okay, you're another Sadler as well. He then tells them a story that goes back to 1641, and this is one of those darker points of Goosebumps, because the story he tells is pretty fucking dark. A group of English pilgrims came to the new land hoping to start a new life, but they arrived in winter and struggled to survive. Basically, cold and starving, they slowly died in great pain and suffering, where some then refused to cross over after dying and have haunted the land ever since. And it's like, yeah, I can see it's believable and it's not nice.
No, it's quite a dark insinuation for sure. Like, that's kind of story, pretty dark.
It is. But again, he insists he's not a ghost, but he says he studies them. So he's some sort of like inventor person that studies ghosts. Okay. He does claim that Sam and Louise are ghosts, and the cave is his sanctuary, and he's safe inside. And I'm like, is anyone going to tell me how or why he's safe inside this cave? Never do.
Nope.
He then tells them to go to a specific part of the graveyard and they will get their answers. The kids leave and Jerry insists they go to the graveyard. We do this thing where we hear a dog barking and it seems to get their attention, but then they just go to the graveyard anyway. So you're like, okay, that was something. Inside, they think they hear someone watching them, but they do discover 2 gravestones with the names Sam and Louisa on it. And the thing that doesn't work for me in this, where it's like, well, why would that convince them that Sam and Louisa are ghosts? Because Harrison had a gravestone. Surely they could just be like, well, ancestors.
Louisa Sadler, Samuel Sadler.
Louisa and Sam.
Definitely.
Yeah. Sam and Louisa then arrive behind them, and Jerry and Terry tell them that they spoke with the ghost and that they were told to come here to see their gravestones. Of course, Sam and Louisa suggest the ghost is just tricking them and the graves are their ancestors. All right, it's very coincidental. It's very coincidental, but someone's not telling the truth. We just don't know who. The problem is that the actors behind Sam and Louisa are shitting the absolute bed with their delivery. Sam and Louisa then say, look, we know what the ghost's plan is. Come with us to a different part of the grave. And they then lead them to where there are 2 new graves that bear the name and faces of Jerry and Terry. And they say, look, Harrison is planning to fill these graves with your bodies. I'm like, okay, cool.
You need to see it. We need you to believe us.
Believe what?
Here it is. See for yourself.
Jerry Sadler and Terry Sadler.
Our graves?
Freshly placed gravestones. For you and your sister. This is what the ghost didn't want you to see.
What does he want?
What do you think? To eat you and bury your bones right here.
Sam and Louisa told Jerry and Terry that they need to seal Harrison inside the cave. Obviously, you know, Jerry asked the question, well, if he's a ghost, surely he can just float through rocks. And they make up some mumbo jumbo about it being a sanctuary and he's trapped inside. And Terry's like, oh yeah, he did say he was worried about being trapped. And this is where the episode, to me, just gets very, very silly. As the group go back to the cave and Jerry and Terry are given a big stick, which they can apparently use to unearth some rocks that will collapse over the mouth of the cave. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? We should point out a storm is beginning to pick up. We did see it picking up over the sea. And that then has a lightning strike, like crashes down upon the rocks, which stops them from what they're doing. Harrison then comes out of the cave and confronts them all. And he calls over a dog, which barks at Sam and Louisa, revealing them to be ghosts. Problem with this is, like, this convinces Jerry and Terry that they're like, oh yeah, remember, dogs sense ghosts, right? So he must sense ghosts. But that doesn't work, because you could just say, well, no, this is Harrison's guard dog. So it's barking at them because it's a guard dog, like dogs do just bark at people. So every time a dog barks at a person on the street,
Oh, no, like dogs do that sometimes.
Sam and Louisa kind of back off into the cave, and they're backing off into the cave, and they reveal that yes, they are ghosts, and they died in the 1600s in the winter. And we see their faces kind of become like superimposed with like a skeleton face as well. I didn't mind it.
No, I think it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
The first winter, it wasn't fair.
We never had a life at all.
We all died in the cold.
Hungry. We were so hungry. Stay with us, cousins.
Join us. We dug such nice graves for you.
They're basically sad ghosts. That's the thing. They're not evil ghosts. They're sad ghosts. They're kind of begging Jerry and Terry to sort of stay with them. I just kind of felt sorry for them.
That's something a bit different for Goosebumps, yeah.
Yeah. But we get this fucking really dumb resolution as they back into the caves. Another lightning strike hits the rocks, and the ghost kids apparently get buried inside the cave. And you're like, I don't get it. Yeah,
I mean, like I said before, clearly it had something on effects budget, because that awesome lightning strike, that blocks the cave entrance there. That's something you don't really see too many like explosive type things happening in Goosebumps. So they had that. But yeah, as you said, like they're quite sympathetic ghosts, so it's kind of like a bit of a, sad conclusion, really. Well,
as well. If they're now trapped in this cave forever, like why not change the angle to have them like help them move on? Like Harrison helps them move on, and then we could still have the twist ending.
That sounds more like in line with what Goosebumps would do normally, but they just went for a bit of a darker ending, because like as you said, like the insinuation they are children, and the suffering or whatever they had to go through to die originally, the freezing and starving to death that a guy mentions. So it's like that's already quite dark, and then they are like just lonely ghosts, really. So yeah, it's quite a shitty conclusion for them, really. Yeah,
you are right, but fear not, dear listeners and watchers. If you want your classic Goosebump ending, you will get something here. As back with Brad and Agatha, the kids shared a story, but a dog barking gets their attention outside. The dog, Harrison's dog, then comes running in and starts to bark at Brad and Agatha, who then reveal that they themselves are maybe ghosts or maybe monsters. That never really clears that up, but they're also responsible for a lot of the skeletons. And to me, this is where I linked it back to the food. I was like, okay, are we implying that food is animals and things they've caught and killed?
Bad dog, giving away our little secret like that.
Maybe he's not such a bad dog, Brad. Maybe he's quite a good dog.
It's a little early for breakfast. Terry, Jerry, why don't you kids go and set the table while Agatha gets busy in the kitchen?
Damn, man. I just was completely confused by this ending, like in every way. I had no idea. And like the two main kids, they look as equally as confused as I was. I don't think they had any idea what was going on. I think this was completely unnecessary. They shouldn't have tacked this on at the end. It was just, they had the whole sad story with the two young kids and whatever, that was fine, but then they just had to tack on something else because it's Goosebumps, go have another twist and somehow explain these two weird, because like the whole time you're wondering what's the deal with the kids. Are they ghosts? And also why are they two cousin people, why are they acting so weird? Like, and they didn't really explain their actions, so they kind of have to throw something in there to explain why they're acting like such weirdos. And I thought that it brought down the episode a little bit for me, just because it left me feeling like really like what.
What I did like, though, is you talked about it, is I like the acting, the gleeful sort of behavior. It reminded me of the end of The Girl Who Cried Monster, when the kind of parents transform into monsters. And they have that kind of gleeful enjoyment of it almost.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I wish I understood like why they did, because in The Girl Who Cried Monster, it made sense. Whereas in this, it just felt like, what? What's going on here?
No, it does feel tacked on. It's an unusual episode, but one I will admit I quite enjoyed overall. I do like the ghost stories, and I think you said the location. I think the budget, the money they spent on what they wanted to do, and some of the shots are well done. I think the story is quite decent, and it's got those dark tones. It's just dragged down by some absolutely horrendous acting and line delivery, and just some nonsensical points that you think, right? it needed another 10 minutes to
Mm.
fill in, like to explain itself a bit better, but it just didn't have it.
Yeah, there's like small gaps, definitely. Like you said, with the food at the dinner table thing. Like it feels like they had some idea, or maybe it was supposed to go longer. Maybe in the book it does elaborate more on that their whole thing. But in this, it just feels like they had run out of time, maybe run out of money, and they just were like, got to cut it. So for me, like it's a decent episode, but I think like it is very predictable. You have to say that, even if it is like good predictable, it's still very predictable, and it does kind of go the obvious route. So like it doesn't really jump out to me as being like a great episode. When we do like the ranking, I can't see putting it like at the top just because it has so many. It like ticks a box and then it misses. It's kind of like hit and miss a little bit, you know.
No, I think that's a great summation of it. What do you think? Do you agree with what Liam said? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?